First upload for today is to do with the spiritual misdemeanors that have been caused in my hometown and my community. As I've mentioned, I'm a sacred royal and I'm a universal light worker. I've reiterated in all my uploads that I have conducted a spiritual cleansing in my marital home, in my family home, and throughout a community. So basically, that's my achievement. And amongst my other spiritual achievements were the works that I accomplished since endeavouring to become a spiritual, sentient, consciously. So the work commenced in 2006. Unconsciously, subconsciously, it was always a present factor of my character since my birth. I come from a family of highly religious individuals and very spiritually aware, sentient individuals. So, 2006, I commenced my work in spiritual endeavors, helping people along the way and meeting people that have helped me along the way. The issue I'm going to raise in this upload is with regard to my spiritual cleansing endeavors in society between 2017 and 2019. Now, as a recovery fellowship advocate of strength, courage, serenity, and wisdom, and that has worked for the betterment of society, civil society, there are matters that are quite relevant with regard to the human rights issues and abuses occurring in Tralee, County Kerry as a consequence of treason and hate crime. There are issues about practices within the field of spiritual studies and spiritualism and spirituality, and there are religious issues that concern these matters also, particularly more so with each individual and their own unique bloodline. So I'm only going to discuss matters pertaining to my bloodline, which is of royal, and the issues of offence that have been caused in spiritually vile actions by a collective, a group in a community that did not work within any, as we say, framework, basically, that is legally tolerable in the spiritual world. So they basically help themselves to precious, thinking they were in a candy store, and they have disrespected precious, and they have damaged and altered precious, and that precious came from my light body. Now, as a sacred royal and as a recovery advocate and as a law-abiding citizen and as an educator and all those things that I've worked for and achieved throughout my lifetime, and I'm nearly 40, to have experienced people disrespecting faith, religion and thought processes, which is a human right, is a very serious offence that I consider even more serious for any relevant authorities or agencies to be ignoring. It's very dangerous to be damaging a sacred light body. It's very dangerous to be misattributing and to be cheapening and belittling and demeaning for the sake of ego and those individuals that aren't conscious individuals or mature adults in any spiritual sense. So for those to be disrespecting women's rights and children's rights is bad enough. Those to be disrespecting the Constitution and to be bargaining and discussing obstructions and obstacles is pretty bad enough as well. But when it comes to a bloodline, and when it comes to the issue of sacred, and I don't know if people are comprehending this matter sufficiently, because if it had been understood sufficiently from procedures that I commenced 3 years ago, and if it was understood as a serious matter as it is, then perhaps there wouldn't be the delay in administrative duties to be accomplished. So when a law-abiding citizen of the experiences that I've experienced has also experienced administrative and legal failings and failures. That raises a lot of doubt and query with regard to those calling the shots. There are some things that are not negotiable, and those that haven't worked within the proper premise of spiritual practices, when damaging sacred, are incurring very serious dangerous harms and consequences that they aren't respectfully acknowledging. So those that have damaged light fragments from my child and I, and that are still causing offence and still disturbing the peace, and still not addressing their defects or their wrongdoings, and still not making amends, I query honourability. And I wonder, on a European stage, with the standards of other wonderful countries that I've visited, I'm wondering about the par between our level of honourability when we see a failing or a failure or a wrongdoing occurring, and the ability to be able to rectify and resolve maturely, professionally, sensibly, because there's been a lot of nonsense that I've tolerated, and as a spiritual sacred royal and as a law-abiding educator, that nonsense is very insulting. So I'm just wondering, on a European stage, how does this situation represent itself to other sensible, mature, professional countries and its agencies and authorities? So the ombudsmen that have my application procedures since January or February 2017, and the European Court of Human Rights that are fully aware of my circumstances also, and the falsehoods and fallacies and the nonsense that I've had to listen to while I'm waiting to hear from my child and his whereabouts. What have the authorities and agencies done about any of this? And who is damaging my sacred light and monopolising and exploiting for monetary gain and thinking that that's a win situation? A win-win or a win-lose. Either way, bad gains, bad business when it comes to sacred isn't so successful, and it doesn't represent much calibre or character either. So those offending the Constitution and the Declaration and my royal bloodline and my beautiful child with unlawful actions and illegalities, I'd appreciate the authorities and agencies having the strength, courage, serenity and wisdom to address the problems that they've caused unashamedly and that they're still exacerbating. So this is Miriam McElligott uploading throughout the day while imposters and exacerbators violate whistleblower protection laws, and while they're obstructing justice, I'm just going to share my experiences about how hate crime has affected a society due to my property that is being stolen from me and my wealth that has been stolen and withheld from me because of a collective obstructing the course of justice.